Welcome to Don't Do Stupid Shit to Your Body on OMTimes Radio with inventor, author, engineer, and rebel Gail Lynn. Gail has over 3 decades of solving her own health mysteries and then helping thousands of others find a better quality of life through sound, light, frequency, and vibration. She has witnessed countless stories of people harming themselves, some resulting in death, just because they didn't know any better. Her hope is to educate people to be more discerning and critically think about the sources of information being researched, as well as products and modalities being used to determine if or how they are biased and misleading. Don't Do Stupid Shit is inspiring, honest, authentic, and unapologetic. Listen now to laugh and learn from Gail Lynn and her guests as they discuss how to be more discerning with healers, energy modalities, what you put into your body, and, most importantly, to listen to your body. Here is your host, Gail Lynn.
Hey everyone, welcome. Oh my gosh, I hit my mouse button and my screen is huge, so my face is huge. So we're just gonna, I don't know how to fix it, so we're good to go. It's awesome. Anyway, I have to start with my jokes so we can entertain our producer today. So what do you call a pregnant woman with a transparent belly? A womb with a view.
Oh.
And the second one for you, Chris, is what's the most common pregnancy craving? Most common pregnancy craving for men to be the ones who get pregnant. Shoot. Yeah, we always start with a joke, so it's kind of funny. So you guys have a very special guest, which I say that every show, but very special guest today. Amaadi is amazing. She has the right name. Amazing Amaadi, right? Master's degree in public policy, bachelor's degree in criminal justice, pursuing a doctorate in physical therapy, fluent in Spanish, traveled the world, passionate about helping women solve their health problems, which is a niche, founder of Fitness Tribe Wellness, and trademarking herself as the belly therapist. I mean, you guys really amazing. So welcome, Amaadi. And how did you go from criminal justice to the belly therapist?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Gail. It's great to be here to see you. How did I go from criminal justice to the belly therapist? Well, I started wanting to create programs for inner city kids to deter them from criminal activity. So I thought, well, I want to talk to as many people as possible. So that's where the Spanish came in. So if I learned a second language, okay, I can talk to more people. So the communication barrier would be erased. If I get a degree in criminal justice, I can learn about the justice system and figure out, okay, why are kids being locked up and what can we do to prevent it? And I ended up actually going into research. So I was a data person, a data cruncher. I wouldn't say a statistician, but I was the person that created tables and, did the regressions and all that kind of stuff and wrote out the reports as to why this is going up 1% and this is going down 2%. And that was not for me, or at least in the criminal justice realm, that was not for me. So I decided to move over to child and maternal health data. So it's still data, but I wouldn't say a softer realm, but a more welcoming realm for a woman. And so I did a couple of, I had a couple of posts, couple of positions with the state, with university, with nonprofit from Baltimore to DC. And I liked it. But there was something missing from my life that I did for myself, which was fitness and, exercise. And I did it because I liked the way it felt, not necessarily because of the health benefits or the outcomes. So I got a part-time job teaching Zumba at the YMCA here in Baltimore. And literally I would have that, 9 to 5 job and come home to 3 boys, change my clothes into sneakers and workout clothes, and then go teach classes at the Y. And I literally did that for almost 10 years. So I was almost leading a double life. But I just felt so much more rewarded to be in that environment, the fitness environment, was really fitness and wellness environment. And then I realized, wait a minute, a lot of women are having some of the same issues, even some of the men having some of the same issues. I'm like, am I the only one that's really seeing this? I'm like, okay, well, let me just keep going, and just help in general. And being the nerd that I am, I'm, always reading research studies and, watching podcasts, reading books to educate myself. And so in the process of all of that, my mom had passed away. And then 6 months later, I was laid off. And I'm like, yeah, what's going to happen here? Because I'm kind of stuck, So I decided to just jump into what I had already been doing part-time in my double life. And my second life at night was to just go into fitness for myself and still work for the Y part-time. And when I realized that there was this pattern of fire truck, when I realized there was this pattern that people wanted their midsections flatter. They didn't care about anything else. They didn't care if their hip hurt. They didn't care if their shoulder hurt. They want a flat stomach. And I'm like, okay, let me pay attention to this. Now, this is men and women. It doesn't matter how old they are. So I literally spent an entire year focusing on the core, not just the abs, but the entire core of the human body. What is it? What muscles are comprised of it? What movements are efficient? What movements are not efficient to strengthen it? What are some of the conditions or ailments related to it? And diastasis recti, some people say diastasis, but I say diastasis recti, kept coming up. And it's interesting because a friend of mine, quote unquote, diagnosed me with it. She was a massage therapist, and she's pretty much a master of human body. And this was 10 years ago. I didn't have any symptoms. So I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. Kind of shoot it away. And then in my studies of that year-long sabbatical, if you will, of just focusing on the core, of course, it comes up. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is a structural issue. It's medical.
Well, tell us, what is this? So I was saying it diastasis recti or rectus, because I've seen it both ways. So tell us what it is.
So diastasis literally means separation. It's Latin for separation. So in other words, the separation of the abdominal muscles. And so one of the reasons why you're seeing rectus versus recti, one is plural, one is singular. That's all. It's either or, So I interchange diastasis recti with abdominal muscle separation. And it's literally
somebody was calling it mummy tummy.
Well, so here's the thing. A lot of moms have a mommy tummy, but they don't know what's going on beneath the surface. And a lot of times, in fact, 30 to 60% of the time, it's this medical condition.
Yeah, and it kind of looks like a hernia because it bulges, right?
So it can. Mine didn't. So I had one, but I didn't have any symptoms. My stomach was flat after 3 children. I didn't have any back. I didn't have any signs of it. So clearly I was ignorant to that, even when I was told that I had it. So it's the separation of the 6-pack muscles. And so what happens is during rapid weight gain, specifically in what I do, pregnancy, the muscles have to separate to accommodate the growth of the baby. And once baby arrives after childbirth, sometimes the muscles don't close back naturally. They just kind of hang out open. And that can cause a whole host of issues. So
I was researching. I never heard of this before, but I also know that I never had a baby. And I know how brilliant you are because when I met you after listening to a podcast, I was like, I got to meet this lady. She's brilliant. I just got to meet her. But when we did our workout program together, I couldn't even walk. You were kick my ass, right? I was like, so I know you know about the body. I know you know how to target the things. And so I had never heard of it, but it was like looked really painful. What are some of the other symptoms people have, or what are some of the symptoms people have that aren't in good shape and they end up having this? And one of the key things that you said to me was 90% of people that have it they're not diagnosed.
Unfortunately for them, that is correct. I'm not sure if medical school does not do a good job of this particular focusing on this particular issue, or I'm not sure why, but that is the case. And it goes from, just to address the 90% undiagnosed question that you made, from the medical doctor to the nurse, if they take the midwife route, natural birth route, to, okay, let me go to a chiropractor, I'm not feeling okay, even though this is the new normal, to a physiotherapist, for a physical therapist that specializes in women's reproductive health. I've had all of those. I've had clients that have gone through all of those checks and balances before they came to my program, and they said, my doctor didn't tell me. Or they might say, oh, my doctor told me, but said I'll be okay. Or they'll say, so my doctor didn't tell me, but, my physical therapist told me, but the exercises didn't work. So it's almost like I'm like the last stop before they after taking the program, they see relief and progress.
So some of the symptoms that are related, because I was talking to my sister about this, and she's like, I've had back pain, I've had, painful sex, after childbirth. And she said, no one ever brought this up. I thought it was just normal because I had a baby.
And that's part of why I'm doing what I'm doing, because education is super important. If people don't know, they don't see a value in it. So I think educating people in general, women in particular, is super important, because there are signs and symptoms, and sometimes they write it off as, oh, I'm just getting older. Oh, that's just what happens when I have a baby. Or, oh, okay, I'm 63 now, so I need to get the pins. And it's like, no, it's never too late, even for this that we're talking about, this condition.
Right.
So some of the signs, as you mentioned, hernia is a sign. I have a client right now. She's on week 9. My program is really just 6 weeks, but she wanted to keep going to address the hernia, because a lot of people also don't know this. Just as a side note, only 2% of people that have a hernia actually need surgery to fix it. So she's not one of the 2%. Most people are not part 2%, right? So it can help with a hernia, and it's an umbilical hernia specifically, that's pretty much located above the belly button, about a couple inches above the belly button, tender to the touch. It bulges out a little bit. So that's one of the signs. Another sign, as you mentioned, painful sex. So there are a lot of pelvic floor issues that come up for women. And by the way, just as a side note, it's not just women that have babies. I've had clients that have not had children. I've had men that have taken my program. So this is a human issue, not necessarily a mom issue.
So not an alien issue, to be clear, just a human issue.
It's a human issue. It's not a. So painful sex is one of them. Uterine prolapse is one of them. I won't do scientific terms, but a bladder and rectum prolapse, meaning that they descend from their original position down. Those are symptoms or signs. Digestive issues are also an indicator, not solely by itself. It's not like these are all standalone. I usually say if you have at least 2 or 3 of these together happening at the same time, there's a good chance you do have a separation. So some of the digestion digestive issues, could be excessive bloating, constipation, it could, so those are the two common ones.
It's amazing. I mean, look at all the women or men or anybody who's going to a doctor, getting on pain pills, getting on bladder pills, and they just don't know that they can fix it. I mean, what a terrible things for your emotions.
Yeah, because you can be prescribed medication for something you don't have, which is why misdiagnoses and then thereafter prescribing medication for the wrong diagnosis is the number 3, I believe, killer of humans in this country.
Yeah, there's they were saying 500,000 people a year medical error deaths. My parents in 2017 were both a medical error death, and they weren't even counted as such. So my dad had mesothelioma, but working in Uniontown, in Detroit, they're not going to diagnose him with such. They diagnose him with COPD. 4 years later, he's on 6 inhalers, 3 pain pills, antidepressants. He's in hospice care, and he's suffering with mesothelioma, or, so a type of lung cancer, and they're treating it as COPD. So, his suffering was definitely a medical error, kind of issue. My mom had headaches. So my mom said she had migraine headaches. But if you've ever had a migraine, you know that you can't talk, you can't eat, you can't be in light, you're throwing up, you're having diarrhea at the same time, just shooting out both ends. So my mom would call me up and, I just had lunch and I have a migraine. I'm like, Mom, you do not, you have a headache. So she was taking a migraine pill that expands and contracts the blood vessels in the brain. Over time, that you can't pull the rubber band so many times, it's not going to snap. So she had a brain aneurysm and died. But of course, not diagnosed with a medical error or death, but definitely as a medical error. She was not getting migraines. She was having headaches. She should have never been on a migraine pill. So how many people out there are on, these pills and, and they don't have what they're on the pill for, and then it's causing the side effects or potential death, as they say in the commercials. But I think the voice that they use and the frequency that they use, we don't even pay attention. We don't even hear. If you take this pill, kidney failure, liver failure, and then potential death, if you really listen to that, you wouldn't take these things. So I'm so glad you're out there helping people.
Yeah. Just to add to your sharing of your parents, I would also say my mom is was in the same category. Because she went in with colon cancer into the hospital, and she died of pneumonia in the hospital. I won't get into the details, but yeah, I completely agree with what you
so
said.
If it's 500,000, it's probably closer to 750 a million a year.
Yep. Yeah. And specifically about this condition, and let's just take something like they're constipated and they go to the doctor because, they have a SAD diet, standard American diet, that doesn't have a lot of fiber and a lot of water and, a lot of processed food. So let's say someone's on that type of diet and they don't recognize that's a problem, and they're constipated and they go to their doctor and they have a diastasis. The doctor prescribes something to get the pipes moving and everything, when all they have to do is change their diet and close their separation. Now, what's so important about closing your separation? I think this is extremely important because we talked about what it is and what are the symptoms, that kind of thing. If you just imagine your abs closed, that's adequate protection from the visceral organs, from the organs in the trunk, in the torso, in the abdominal cavity. And if they open up just a little bit, then those organs will start to peek out just a little bit, not necessarily visually to the eye, but they'll kind of slant forward just a little bit. And it could be 0.5 centimeter out of place that's causing these issues. Just 0.5 centimeter. So I've got clients that have got 8 finger separation. What does that mean? So if your muscles are closed like this, they can fit 8 fingers between the right and the left side. They can literally put 8 fingers in between their muscles. So what's going on with the organs that would normally get the protection of the closed muscles? Now they're open. Now all you've got is connective tissue holding it there, which is insufficient. And so everything tilts forward.
Yikes. That is, I mean, it's scary to think about it because I was watching videos today on it so I could have an intelligent conversation with you because I never heard of it. And I thought, oh my gosh. And they said, usually 1 finger, 2 fingers, and then it'll close back up at 8 fingers. Wow. And think about it, like God places our organs in the exact perfect place. And just a centimeter, of that bulge could cause all kinds of problems. Yep. It's just so sad. The people have gone undiagnosed and the emotional issues that they've had. I mean, it's not like you're getting old, so you have a bladder leakage. You could have this. And tell me again how you say it. Diastasis rectus?
So you can say it 2 ways.
Recti.
The way that you're saying it, diastasis recti, or diastasis.
Diastasis. Okay. Because I know if I want to speak intelligently about it, I need to say it properly. I have a lot of clients that have Lyme disease and it's serious. But as soon as they hear somebody say it's Lyme's disease with an S, they're like, you don't even know what I have. You don't have any appreciation for it. You're ignorant, you're rude. So I try to be respectful because if somebody does have this, I want to make sure I am, respecting the terminology too. So thank you.
Yeah.
So give another example for us of a client that you have with some, maybe the back pain or.
Yeah. So another symptom. Yeah. So I actually didn't finish that. Sorry. So we've got hernia as a symptom or sign. We've got digestive issues. We've got pelvic floor issues. We've got lower back pain. This is a big one, but lower back pain is probably the number one telltale that something is going on. A lot of people, 80% of Americans have lower back pain, but all of them don't need surgery.
Right. Well, it can be emotional too, as we know. You and I had this big conversation about the emotions. It can be financial issues. And then L4 and L5 vertebrae is about abandonment. So, you really got to be a private investigator like yourself. Brilliant. And just interesting how you were in this data research and all these things to be a private investigator and researcher, right? And now here you are finding the root cause of things that people are going crazy over trying to figure out.
Yeah, I was born this way. I'm a self-proclaimed nerd and I'm not ashamed of it. I'm happy about it. I just want to help people. I just want to help. That's what I want. I like to teach. I like to educate about little research projects that I do on myself. So I literally did this on myself. My program I did on myself, and I was actually very skeptical. I try to tell people because I'm a very transparent person. So I found this technique. I kind of tweaked it a little bit, and 2 days, something told me take a picture once a week. Just take a picture. Let me humor myself. This is not going to work, but I'll take this picture just in case. And I've been a vegetarian for over 20 years. And I, not to be a, TMI, but after 2 days of this technique, I became more regular. After a week, I saw a slight change in my waistline. So when I got to the 4th week and I looked at the first picture, I looked at the week 4 picture, I was like, oh my gosh, this actually works. I have to create something because if it worked, and this was pre-COVID. So I'm running kids to school and soccer practice and play dates and all kinds of things. And I was still able to have time to do this. And so I said, okay, well, if I'm a busy mom and I can do it, I'm pretty sure other busy moms will be able to do it. So that's how I studied under Julie Tupler. She created the Tupler technique. And it's quite interesting because she told me I became the first Black woman to be certified under her tutelage. And I'm like, this is 2020.
Yeah.
first Black woman. What? I thought we did all that. No, she was like, yeah. I was like, okay,
Wow. Well, you're just very unique. I mean, we're kind of built from the same mold. We find a problem when we go look for the solution and teach. We're going to go to commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about treatments. We're going to talk about prevention. We're going to talk about diet. We're going to talk about, staying active. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff, but we'll go to commercial right now.
OMTimes TV. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. OMTimes Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, OMTimes offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an OMTimes magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on OMTimes TV and broadcasting it across the extensive OMTimes radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. OMTimes. Open yourself to the possibilities. Sound and light therapy have been used in healing for thousands of years. In today's fast-paced world, our bodies and minds are more stressed than ever. Stress is known to be the #1 reason for many diseases and illnesses. Current lifestyles are causing premature deaths and preventable diseases. What can you do? Get a Lift. A powerful, self-evolving resonant sound and light chamber reduces stress, can be used daily, and offers individuals peace and tranquility while restoring the body and mind to its natural state of vitality. Visit letitflowtherapy.com.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're back. And you guys know I love saying that. So we've been talking about diastasis, I'm going to say it that way, recti, with Amaadi, and learning a lot about what it is, what the symptoms are, and how we can work with it without surgery, maybe working on it with exercise. So can you tell us some ways to prevent it and some ways that we can, quote unquote, treat it?
Great question. So I tell people who will listen, the first thing is just say no to crunches. Just say no to crunches. Stop doing crunches. A lot of people are like, yay, oh my God, that's great. I hate crunches anyway. Stop doing crunches and facing down planks. Any type of position or movement where you're facing down on all fours, including sex, puts a lot of intra-abdominal pressure on your midsection, and that could further damage your separation. So that's the first thing I say, because when people do crunches, we've all done a crunch, right? If we haven't, we've seen how it's done. And when you lift your head and your shoulders off the floor, your belly kind of bulges up, and it's actually not supposed to happen. It's actually supposed to stay flat. So that's one way you know you're doing the wrong, and most people do the crunches wrong. So just stay away from them. So when you're facing down, women, we tend to know this more so than men, but our stomachs kind of hang. Gravity's pulling on it. That's pressure that we need to avoid to prevent further damaging the midsection if you have separation. Something else to avoid forward crossover movements like swimming, tennis, golf, because it's going to stretch the connective tissue that I mentioned. So we've got the linea alba, and not to get too deep, but it attaches at the bottom of the sternum all the way to the pubic bone. So it literally draws the line straight down through the belly button to the pubic bone. And that is the tissue that's actually supporting the muscles in place of the muscles themselves being closed. So that connective tissue is attached to the right side and left side of the six-pack muscles. And so if it's being stretched side to side, we don't want to do forward crossover movements to further stretch it out. So we want to avoid forward crossover movements as well as the facing down. So let's say you have a baby or a toddler and you're chasing after the toddler and you're on all fours doing it. That's an example of what you want to avoid, unfortunately, until you've fixed or healed somewhat the diastasis. When you get up from sitting or sleeping, when you cough, when you laugh, when you sneeze, for those that push when you are eliminating on the toilet, you want to make sure that your ab muscles are braced or engaged or tightened, whatever word resonates with you. You want to make sure that they are engaged, and then you do that act. Now, of course, sneezes are, unpredictable. So, kind of have to flow with that. But that's abdominal pressure, intra-abdominal pressure. We want to avoid it as much as possible. And coughing, laughing, sneezing, and pushing during elimination are definitely those serious moments where you could do some damage. If you have allergies, hay fever, and you have to sneeze a lot, or if you're coughing, squeeze your ab muscles towards your spine and then do what you have to do to protect that connective tissue that I was talking about. So those are some of the basic preventative steps that you can take.
So could you wear like the girdle thing? Does that help if you put that on to hold the muscles together?
So yes, but I do need to say this because you have one camp of women that wear waist trainers, and they think the waist trainer is going to magically do something and all on its own. And then you've got another camp where I belong to, and no shade to the first camp, but I'm over here in the second camp. So my program includes wearing belly binders for that compression effect. And it's to help keep the muscles, like encouraging the muscles to come back together. But it's also coupled with specific breathing and strengthening exercises. So you're not relying solely on the compression feature of that garment. So I do, if I can, like in my newsletter, if I have people asking me on social media, well, what about waist trainers? There's nothing wrong with waist trainers as long as you train your waist yourself and not put all of
not use it as a crutch.
Not use it as a crutch,
yeah.
Right. So, and the first thing, going back to lower back pain, a lot of clients that I have lower back pain, and when I teach them how to put on the belly binders, they're like, oh my God, I feel so supported. Oh, this feels so good. Oh my God, where have you been all my life? Because a lot of the weight of their trunk is spilling forward, pulling on their lower back. In other words, instead of their, as we said, it could be a centimeter out of place forward, their organs. So whenever the trunk, the abdominal cavity, and all the organs spill forward, even a little bit, there's a little crunch happening to the lower back. So the more forward, the bigger the belly, the more fat, the bigger the separation, the less support, not just for the internal organs, but for the lower back. So now we've got back pain. So when we put the compression belly binders on, it lifts it up and supports it. That's why you see people when they're lifting heavy weights, they've got some kind of belt on to protect that lower back. Or if you see FedEx carriers or someone that's carrying, lifting heavy loads, they're wearing that to protect themselves. So as long as they are doing specific exercises for the abdominal muscles, in addition to wearing the compression garment, that's perfect.
Nice. And how would a man get this?
A man would get this because all of us, men and women, are born with it. Every single person, unless they're, there are outliers, there are exceptions.
Aliens? Just kidding.
Are born with it. And around age 3 is when it ideally closes, when it generally closes, because this is when the immune system starts to kind of stabilize. And so it starts to close around age 3. Sometimes it doesn't close ever. Sometimes it does close, but then they'll do gymnastics. That's another sport where a lot of gymnasts have the separation because they're arching their lower back. Well, if you're arching your lower back and you're flaring your ribs, that's a lot of stretch on the front part of your torso. I lost my train of thought.
How would men get this? Was basically what I was asking.
So they could be it doesn't close. It could reopen because of whatever sport they're playing, because they're not properly engaging their abs when they're doing specific activities, and also rapid weight gain. So around middle age, if they drink a lot of beer, beer bellies, it's a thing. So
my guy has one.
Yeah, one of my male clients, he didn't drink beer, but he kind of had a beer belly, and he had a separation, and his wife did not, and they had children. So I treated him. So it could be just rapid weight gain in the midsection.
Because then it's pushing out all those muscles. Yep. Wow. Because I have a family member too that's young that has I would call it distended belly. And I just wonder if there's something going on there too. He's 10.
Does he have, so another sign is also an outie belly button. If someone has an outie belly button, that might be a sign as well that they have a separation. If someone is lying down, just circling back on the symptoms, if someone's lying down as if they're getting into position to do a crunch, and they just lift their head, keeping their shoulders back, and their stomach bulges up like the end of a football, like a cone, that's like a doming shape, that's also an indication that they may have a separation.
Wow. Yeah, there's probably so many people that have this that don't even know. There was a lady on a video today, her husband was a plastic surgeon that, fixes this surgically, which I'd rather have them go to you and fix it. It's a little more work, but, they don't have to go through the surgery route, which I think anytime you get a surgery, you're really messing up, God's perfection of your body. But she said that she used vitamin E oil, so she didn't have it as bad. Is there other thing? She said clean diet, vitamin E oil, and staying active. She didn't have it as bad after her pregnancy.
The separation?
She still had a little bit of it, but she said because her vitamin E oil, clean diet, and active lifestyle, she just had it slightly. Is there such a thing as you have it a little bit or you have it a lot? I mean, you talk about the 8 fingers.
Yeah. So in this specialty, many people agree that 2-finger separation is considered normal. So 2 fingers and less is considered healed, normal, whether that's all you've had or you've healed it to that point. 2-finger separation is considered acceptable. I'm not a perfectionist, but I want to try to get to 1 finger because 2 finger, I want to try to get to 1 finger. But I think genetics plays a big part in this. So if this runs in the family, then chances are you might be predisposed to it. That doesn't mean that you can't fix it. That doesn't mean you'll automatically get it, but there's a high chance that you could get it. Clean diet definitely helps. Vitamin E oil definitely helps. Being active and being aware of your core and engaging your abs when you are exerting energy or force definitely helps.
Being on the bottom, not the top.
I would actually say being on the top.
But you're not supposed to have your belly down, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about something else.
I don't know. I'm talking about sex.
Okay, right.
I'm going to be blushing here in a minute.
on a woman's side. So I call it lazy sex. I call it lazy
Do you need to
sex.
get off the call? No, I'm just kidding.
No. I just set the alarm. Weird. So I tell women lazy sex, well, with the woman on her side, lift that leg up and just let it happen, or she being on top. Because those two positions are very separation safe friendly.
Nice.
If you're
These are the things that people don't want to talk about. We're talking about it.
We're talking about it, y'all. Let's talk about
it.
sex, baby.
Yeah. Right?
But think about it. If you're a missionary, if the woman's on the bottom, she's gonna lift her head at some point, and she's not thinking about, oh, let me keep my shoulders back because I don't want my belly to bulge in that moment. So just stay away from it. If she's on all fours, the stomach's going to hang unless she's got a whole bunch of pillows that she can, put underneath of her, So the easiest two things is to just get on top, do your thing, or be on your side.
Nice.
Yeah. So
these are just things that, people are embarrassed to talk about, but you and I, we know that people need to hear this stuff.
Yeah, they do. I mean, it's a part of life.
Yeah.
Actually, a quite beautiful part of life. We're so quick to talk about war. We're so quick to talk about murder. We're so quick to talk about all of these other things that are reality as well. But I don't see what's so bad about talking about sex in a wholesome spiritual
It just
way.
became a faux pas thing. But no, this is great information for people to have. So clean diet. Women that gain a lot of weight in their pregnancy, they're more susceptible to this, right?
I would say yes. I would say
because they're just really extending the belly.
Yeah, I would say because I gained 60 pounds with my first child.
What?
I lost it all. Yeah, I was eating whole pizzas. I mean, I was like, it was.
I can't picture that from you.
I would bring my lunch to work and eat my lunch, and I'm like, okay, that was cute. And then I would go out and buy lunch. Yeah, it was serious. But he's like, he's 19 and he's like 6'2",
Wow.
So.
But he wasn't 30 pounds when he was born, so.
No, he was not. He was 9'5".
Wow.
Yeah, he was a big baby.
Oh
but anyway, yeah. So clean diet. I would say the weight of the baby and the weight that you acquire, that you gain in pregnancy definitely plays a role. Not even in just the separation, but also on the pelvic floor, because all of that is, the baby is literally resting on the pelvic floor. And if, for people who are like, what pelvic floor? You have heard of it, but think of a hammock. Think of a hammock, and you've got three things basically sitting on top of the hammock in a row. The first in a row is the bladder. Then you've got the uterus. Then you've got the rectum. And if this hammock is kind of like a muscle, it's a muscle. It's a group of muscles. And sometimes if things like your organs and organs on top of the organs, and then you've got a baby, kind of gets weighted down, and then you give birth, you got to build that muscle up, just like you build up your biceps, just like you build up your glutes. So there are a group of muscles that you have to work.
Wow.
So.
Well, tell us about your program and how you help people, and what are some of the exercises, if you can just describe them. I mean, is it going to be hard? Is it time consuming? Do they have to do them daily? Tell us a little bit more about that, your program.
So belly therapy is a 6-week program, and you have one-on-one consultations with me. I also do group packages for women that want to do it with their friends and be held accountable and get that motivation with their friends and that experience. I do virtual and in person, depending on the client's geographical location. So we get 3 sessions together over the course of 6 weeks. We go over 4 exercises using the breath to strengthen the transverse muscle. Now, I didn't talk much about the transverse muscle, but the transverse muscle is literally what waist trainers were created in the image of. So airplanes were created in the image of a bird. Waist trainers were created in the image of the transverse abdominis muscle. So it's the body's natural corset muscle that wraps around from the back on either side of the spine. It inserts or connects and wraps around to the front to hold all of those other ab muscles and other back muscles together to secure and support the internal organs. So those 4 exercises target the transverse muscle. Well, why wouldn't it target the ab muscles? Well, because the transverse muscle holds the ab muscles. So it's I don't want to say it's superior, but just focusing on the abs themselves is insufficient, which is why crunches is is a no-no. That's one of the reasons, because it's actually insufficient even if you don't have a separation. It's not a sufficient core. That's why I didn't do crunches with you. When we're working with each other. So 4 exercises that are breath-based. I teach you about proper alignment, body alignment, and positions. We talked about this a little bit, positions and movements to avoid. We go over how to put on the belly binders. There's a guidebook that you get to track everything that we're going through. There's access to an online video with extra information. I do check-ins with the clients. They get before and after pictures. We do measurements along the way to track measurement. So we not only do visual before and after pictures as a testament to progress, but we also do body measurements. And we also check the separation along the way too. So there's so many different variables that can track and document how well the mom or the client is progressing. I like certificates. That's just me because I'm a nerd. I'm always in some kind of program. So I give graduates of belly therapy a certificate of completion. And so I have 2 hats. So once they finish belly therapy, as the belly therapist, I administer belly therapy, they can graduate over onto the fitness side because I'm also a personal trainer. And so they can, as part of the package, they get 1 month free of my online fitness classes. So I was very clear that when I was going to start belly therapy, that, I need to be very transparent and as ethical as possible. And it doesn't make sense for me for my clients to come to me expecting the results of belly therapy, but I'm doing fitness because it's not going to happen. My fitness is not going to fix it. The belly therapy is going to fix it. So when people approach me, I say, I will not train you until your separation is 2 fingers or less.
Because how do they test that? Do they test that at home? They push it into their sternum?
So I have a video on my website, and if it's a consultation and we're real time, then I would demonstrate and walk them through how to check themselves, which is very empowering for them to check and to feel, and they can self-diagnose. That's another reason why, education and empowering women to understand and to feel what's going on with their body is tremendous. This is why I do this work. So yeah, I walk them through how to check themselves, not only for how wide, how many fingers wide, but how deep. So there are 2 factors, how deep and how wide. Why is it important for how deep? Just quickly, because of that connective tissue. We need to know how thin or thick it is. If it's super thin, then it's a super big problem. If it's not so deep, then we're kind of okay. Yeah. So that's.
Do they have diet changes too that you recommend?
So with belly therapy, what is going on? So with sorry, what's going on? I got like 12 alarms, and depending on the day. So for belly therapy in this moment, no, I don't have dietary changes, but I do make recommendations. We do have conversations, and if someone's like, oh, well, this and that, so I can walk them through it, but officially it's not a part of belly therapy, but it will be soon.
Well, and you're so brilliant with diet, and you taught me so much about food combining and the smoothies and the recipes. And I forgot to mention you're an author. I mean, you're just like the, superwoman. Well, tell us some stories. Tell us some stories. Like, I just love the heartfelt stories that people you changed their lives.
Well, there was one client, She came to me, it was about seven fingers separated, and she could put this entire finger in her abdominal cavity.
OMG.
The whole finger in her abdominal cavity. Just to put it into perspective, so she came to me. So this is called a diastometer. I don't know if you can see this. And it has markings. And this is what I use to measure how deep a separation is. And I could literally, I just kept going and going and going. So I put this whole thing in her stomach, her belly. So clearly that's thin and weak. And she had 4 boys. I think she had 4 sons. And she closed it to 2 fingers in 6 weeks.
Wow.
She had no more lower back pain. Her stomach was flat as a board. Her pelvic floor. Oh, another issue with the pelvic floor that she had was urinary incontinence. So that's that urine leakage that we don't want if we accidentally sneeze or we cough or we jump up and down and a little tinkle starts to come out.
Yeah.
So because there's a co-contraction relationship between the pelvic floor and the ab muscles, belly therapy also helps with urinary incontinence as well. So that was one of the things that helped her.
I mean, how emotional is that for anybody who just, when they sneeze, they pee? I mean, it's like a vanity thing and an emotional thing. And it's just so, like, just fixing that, helping somebody with that is godsend, right?
It is, especially when they're like 33, when they're relatively young and they're having to change their
I don't want to be doing that at 73.
Right. We don't want to ever do it, but for someone that's young and, not even quite middle aged, I would say it's devastating, completely devastating, especially if they're in public and can't do much, it's horrible. So for me to be able to help women fix that, I mean, of course, a lot of women want a flatter stomach. Of course, a lot of women, want to look like they did. They want that snapback, but I'm not in the business for that. That's just a byproduct. That's just one of the benefits, one of the outcomes. I'm in this because I want to educate women and I want to empower women about their body and how it works, specifically about the belly. Because as you said at the top of the show, it goes undiagnosed, it goes misdiagnosed, and then that can cause a whole host of issues. Like it's almost like creating a problem that didn't exist based on a misdiagnosis. So the more a person knows about themselves and their body and how it works, the more empowered they'll feel if they decide to go, to continue to go to the doctor and be able to not debate, but just stand firm on what they know about themselves.
And I can only imagine some people probably end up with, on antidepressants because some women will be depressed because they're peeing or their back hurts or it's painful to have sex or, they're doing all the wrong things. And because they don't know. Yeah. Gosh, I just love you so much. You're doing such great work. I'm always on your court.
Thank
Team
you.
Amaadi.
Aww. Team Gail.
I know, right? I'll start crying. So tell us how people can find you. What's your website? How do they find all your information?
You can find me at fittribewellness.com. I am on Facebook, Fit Tribe Wellness. I have a private Facebook page for women only, sorry fellas, called Belly Therapy. And it is a safe space for women to connect and share not only their issues, but just their testimonies about their journey with what they're going through with their midsection, with other women in the same camp. On Instagram, I can be found at The Belly Therapist. I do also have Fit Tribe Wellness handle for Instagram, and I do have a YouTube page, Belly Therapy.
Nice. So you're basically a support group for women and they can, be with other women who are going through the same thing to feel like they're not alone.
Yes. I think that a lot of women anybody actually, if they feel alone, it's almost 10 times worse. If they know that there's someone else going through it, they feel they're not alone and that they can actually take steps to overcome it because snatches them.
Right. So you don't feel like an alien.
So you don't feel like an alien.
I don't know why this alien thing keeps coming up with me. All right. Well, any last final words? Thank you so much. I so appreciate. We got 1 minute left. So any final words?
I would just say, love your belly and find your confidence.
Love it. I love it. Thank you so much for being on. I appreciate you. I will talk to you soon.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for having me. Love you.
This show is not intended to diagnose, prevent, or treat any diseases or illnesses. The information presented within cannot substitute the advice of your physician or other trained healthcare professionals. The content of this show is for educational purposes only and is the expressed opinion of the show host and guests.